Hey guys, Razorblade Mango here, and today I'm going to be doing some quick but very late, and apologies for that, thoughts on Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's unfortunate that this couldn't have gotten a video before the big Kingdom Hearts 3 rush, but this is what happens when you release a game that I'm really excited for next to a game that is maybe my most anticipated game ever. Priorities and all. So this is Resident Evil 2, which is the long-awaited remake of course, Resident Evil 2. I think this was announced back in 2015, 2014, 2016 is when they announced this a couple of years, like quite a few years back. And it been radio silence ever since until last E3, and then boom, January 25th, 2019, it's coming. Here's the trailer, here's a ton of gameplay, and it looked fantastic. It really looked great. It looked far better than I actually expected. So, I've played it. How is the game? It's really fucking good. Not the second coming of Jesus, like some people have been proclaiming it is. I think the score right now on Open, not that I really care much about OpenCritic, or Metacritic or whatever, but the score on OpenCritic is like a 92%. I think this game is at, which I'm like, holy shit. Now I don't think it's that good, but it is good. It's very good, damn good. It's just got some things that hold it back for me from being great. But before we get to that, let's talk about the positives. So for my money, I think Resident Evil 2 Remake really delivers the goods in all their disgusting, bloody form. And believe me when I tell you that Resident Evil 2 Remake is fucking disgusting. And I mean that in the best possible way that I can. Even when I first saw this game, I was really taken aback by how graphic it was. And it is extremely graphic. This is going back to like the really gory days of survival horror, where a lot of it wasn't focused on, action and shooting. And this is much more in the vein of Resident Evil 7, where it focuses a lot on how dirty and decrepit and gross the environments are, and it works. It works to make you feel uncomfortable and tense as you're exploring the environment. You always are on your back foot, like just preparing yourself physically and mentally for what's going to happen next. And that makes it so awesome to explore. And I miss games like this. Similar to how I feel about Kingdom Hearts 3. I miss games like Resident Evil 2, for a different reason. A lot of games nowadays, they focus on this whole, this raw square mileage of how big their environments are and how much space is in them to explore and run around in. But a lot of them forget to put actually interesting things in these spaces and design them in a way that gives it this great sense of pacing. And I think Resident Evil 2 Remake has, for the most part, nailed this down. I miss games with these densely packed environments to explore. I miss games with backtracking, when it's done well, with backtracking like this that brilliantly upends the player's expectations and consistently surprises them with new things around every corner. I think Capcom have just nailed it with this. And I think the Raccoon City Police Station is just a masterpiece of level design. The pacing and tension that it evokes is just magnifique, immaculate. And the way they do this is that they give you subtle signposting with the highs of these mini set pieces and the lows of fun scavenging for items and ammo, and it's so fucking good. Even when I was playing the demo for this, I was so impressed by how well done the pacing was, and I couldn't wait to get back into it for the full game. It's like a roller coaster ride where you've got the high, you're ascending, and it's like, oh god, what's gonna happen next, and you're just anticipating it, and then it's just whoosh, just this descent, and it's thrilling and exciting and scary all at the same time, and you feel such an adrenaline rush when it's over that you can't wait to get back into it again. Like, yeah, in the moment you're like, holy shit, what do I do? But when it's all over with, I look back and I think, wow, that was so much fun. I can't wait to keep doing that. And let's go back to the graphics as well, which I said this game is really disgusting, and the gore effects maybe are the best I've ever seen in a game. Maybe. But I also love the lighting in this game. I think the lighting is incredible. I think the audio design is amazing with the screams of the zombies that you hear and just the subtle footsteps and crawls of the lickers on the wall when you're hearing them when you're in another room. It just makes you tense. You just clench your butthole up thinking about it. And the environment just looks so dirty and gross, and you can clearly tell that some shit has gone down in it. It looks amazing for what it is. Now, there are puzzles, like the past Resident Evil games, but I feel like they don't really get in the way of the pacing. In fact, I think for the most part, it helps to have these lows where you can go around and explore. And a lot of the puzzles are optional, but one of my little problems with the game, I think, is that it could explain some of the puzzles in greater detail at some points. Because I honestly did get lost like a few times, and I think the game could have done just a little bit more to kind of push you in the direction that you need to go. Just a tad. Nothing too elaborate needs to be changed, but just a tad more would have been fine. So while we're on the subject, let's get into the negatives, which I think this game does have some small, not small, but some few but big problems. Like I said, it's not the second coming of Christ for the survival horror genre. And weirdly enough, a lot of my complaints with this game line up almost perfectly to how I feel about Resident Evil 7, which is really odd. Because I wish this game was better. I wish it was my favorite game of the year so far. There's already a very good chance that it could appear on the cream of the crop list at the end of the year, but there are some things that really hold it back from being great. When you do eventually leave the Raccoon City police station, I feel like the environments take this significant dip in quality. And I'm not going to showcase any of them out of fear of spoilers, but compared to the sheer brilliance of the level design of the police station, the environments that come later on are just they just seem really slapdashed and uninspired compared to the RCPD. It just, I don't know. It just, there's something about them that just feel off compared to the Raccoon City Police Department. They just don't have the kind of elaborate detail, and maybe they're not meant to, but a lot of the finale is spent in these other environments, where I wish they had changed it around to where you could spend the finale in the Raccoon City Police Department. And the environments in the later half of the game just don't do it for me compared to the police station. They just aren't all that inspired. They have really simplistic pathfinding and puzzles. It never really feels like you're lost in a maze that you want to explore. It just feels like the game's kind of pushing you along to get to the ending. And that's my problem with Resident Evil. That's my problem with survival horror games in general. When it starts getting loud, unless the tension is just that good, when the game starts getting loud is when I start to lose interest. Maybe not interest, but I start to just kind of like, alright. Like that happened with Resident Evil 7, where when you were in the ship at the very end, and you had to shoot your way through the molded, I just grew bored of that. And I think that the environments in Resident Evil 2 are much better than that fucking ship level in Resident Evil 7, which that one just killed the whole pacing of the game for me. But when it starts to get loud is when I start to lose interest, and it just reminds me more of the action-filled Resident Evil games that I'm just like, about. I also feel like the bosses are a big problem. And I think the bosses could have been these really great spectacle moments, but I feel like the combat and the gameplay kind of holds them back. Because the combat and the gameplay feel great for a claustrophobic survival horror game. Like, when you're stuck in a hallway, running for your life from a licker or a group of zombies, like, the gameplay is great. Like, it's tense, and you never feel safe. But when you're going against these big fuckers with giant eyeballs and these weapons, the combat feels very stiff. And it can't keep up with this spike in scale and speed. And I feel like the biggest misstep is the final boss in either of the finales, which are just, they're weak. They're weak for this terrific survival horror experience that preceded them. It's a real shame that they have to end on a whimper like this. And they're not even really tense. They just kind of restrict your movement, and it just feels odd to shoot in this way. It just, it's disappointing how it ends for a game that I was like absolutely loving for the first like 3/4 of it, and then the last quarter of it just kind of, it's okay, not great, it's okay, which is a shame. But like I said, it's just all my problems with like the pacing and the bosses and the finale, they all line up almost perfectly with how I feel about Resident Evil 7, which is kind of odd. I wonder if I'll feel that way about Devil May Cry 5 because it's using the RE engine as well. I don't know. Maybe it's like a curse with the engine. The last quarter of the game is just compared to what comes before it, but I don't know. So in conclusion, Resident Evil 2 Remake is really damn good. If you love survival horror like I do, I think this is an easy recommendation. If you're not, don't buy it, because it will scare the hell out of you. And I don't even think this game is necessarily as scary per se as Resident Evil 7. I think there's more jumpy, scary stuff in Resident Evil 7, but I feel like Resident Evil 2 is more tense. And if I were to pick my preferred one between the two, I kind of might still have to go with Resident Evil 7, because I do, as much as I like the gameplay and the way they've redesigned Resident Evil 2, I do like the first person perspective a little bit more, because I feel like it immerses you more when you're at eye level with a lot of these monsters. There's just something unnerving about seeing what the character is seeing, with having your vision restricted by like your head turning around and stuff. I prefer that as much as I really like Resident Evil 2, and believe me, I really like Resident Evil 2 Remake. So would I recommend it? If you're a survival horror fan, duh. You probably already have it. Oh my god, how could I forget? God, I'm so stupid. Right, so the best part of this game, okay, I'm glad I kind of saved this for the ending, because if you don't want to be spoiled by this, you could just turn this off right now. My favorite part of this game is Mr. X. Holy crap, Mr. X is fucking amazing in this game. I can understand how his appearance and the way it's designed, how it could annoy some people, because he's basically a glorified timer. That's what Mr. X is now. You can't, when he's around, you cannot calmly explore the environments. You gotta be aware of his footsteps and be like, oh fuck, where is this guy? And then when his kick-ass theme comes in, and I love how they turned him into this showstopper of a horror version of the Terminator. It's so great. Like his footsteps in theme music will make my blood run cold for years now. He is an amazing horror villain. One of the very best in video gaming in this iteration of it. He's just amazing. I don't know how Capcom did this to where they made him basically into a glorified timer, and he's not annoying. I look forward to having that encounter with him. And he actually does break the rules. And there are some rules about Mr. X, thankfully, and I think that's what stops him from being annoying, where he won't attack you in most safe places. Like, if there's a safe spot, he won't come through the door and start punching you in the face. He's not an instant kill. If he catches you, you can still get back up after a slug in the face from him. But one of my favorite moments in this game is when I first went back to the main hall after encountering him, and I could hear his footsteps somewhere, and I'm like, oh fuck, where is he? And I thought to myself, no, this is a safe room. There's no way that he's gonna come through. And sure enough, I hear him. I hear his footsteps getting closer, and I hear the music kicking, and I'm like, oh fuck, where is he coming from? And I turn around, and there he is. He's just coming after me. I'm next to a save point, and he's right there. And it just makes you feel that much more uneasy and tense now that you know that he can come after you at a moment's notice during these moments in the game. It is what they've done with Mr. X in this game is just it's just fuck. I love it. I fucking love it. So yeah, Mr. X, I think he's easily the best part of this game, and I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you to everyone who watched. If you like to see, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about Resident Evil 2 Remake. And I will catch you all later. Bye.